Well, I know I say this a lot, but this is going to be interesting because, all right, here's the fun part. These are cigar boxes. I have an in with a local smoke shop, and so I have tons of these. The downside of these is that the maker of the cigars that go in these have horrible, huge labels that have a lot of stickum on them, so it took me a lot of prep to get that off of here and sand this down and get all the gum out of there. So I wanted to give you an idea of kind of what this box will look like, what it looks like down here. It's just a different shape. So what I'm going to do, obviously, is a pour on top of this. And because I like to reuse as many things as I can, this is the plastic that my plastic came in. So that's where I did reuse and kind of help save that a little bit. What I did was I did sand this down, get it all prepped and ready. It's ready to go. Because not only that, I burnished the edges of the tape, and then I did my little trick where I use wood glue or PVA or whatever you want to use, pouring medium, I've used that, and you just kind of put a dab on your finger and move it around here so that that clear dries into any little tiny cracks that might be there. That'll help you out in keeping that clean. Not a bunch, you don't want to gunk it up because it'll be hard to get your paint off, but I just kind of use my finger and do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prime this with gesso, and I'm thinking about giving it a little texture. I haven't done this in a while, but thinking about giving my gesso a little texture with this and let it sit for a little bit and then take that off and then let it completely dry, and then we'll do the pour. And these are the colors that I'm playing with. I've got this mossy green, my favorite Rojo Gold, black, and this is a dark turquoise. This one is the Liquitex Acrylic Inks, and it's the deep turquoise is what it's called. And these three have silicone in them. The black doesn't. So that's all you need to know for now. We're going to prep this and then be ready for the pour. And it's time to pour. We're going back to basics today, old school. We're just going to do, I'm going to do a dirty pour, but it's going to be just a pour. But I got this all prepped, and again, a quick look at its brother here. These are cigar boxes. And the maker that I get, well, I don't get them from a maker, I get them from a local smoke shop, but they've got pretty heavy labels on these, so it takes forever to get all the stuff off, but hopefully this will be worth it. I primed it a little bit because I kind of wanted a different texture this time. I've done this before, and without putting anything on it, it adhered great because I sanded it down, it did great, but it gets the grains of the wood in it, which I love. But this time I wanted to try something a little different, so I just textured this a little bit, so it's just got, you know, pits and stuff in it. I've sanded over this as well with the 300 grit sandpaper just to knock it down a little bit and get any Sharpies off. And so we're going to do these colors today. This is the Rojo Gold that I'm in love with, the Chroma metal, Molten Metals. That is underneath in the description. There's a link to this in for Amazon because I'm an affiliate now. So if you go through that, you can find this. It's a little set, and oh, it's yummy. The whole set is yummy. Matter of fact, I'm almost out. I need more. So this is another one that I remixed for a previous pour, and while it looks kind of mustardy yellow, it really kind of dries to a nutmeg cinnamon color, so I'm hoping it'll play well with these colors. It's a 4-color pour today, so we're going to do that Rojo Gold. We're going to do this kind of cinnamon, terracotta cinnamon is kind of how it dries. This is a dark aqua, or dark turquoise rather, that I had also in the last pour, and I'm pretty sure these colors are going to work pretty good together. I've just siliconed all of these. These already had silicone in them, but I just gave them a couple shots on top, and I haven't even mixed them yet. This is Mars Black, and this is acrylic ink in Floetrol. And there is silicone in this one. I normally don't put the silicone in the black or the white, but I did today. So with these 4 colors, this is what we're going to do. That's kind of thick, but we'll see what happens. I don't know about this bowl. They're great for storing paint, not great for pouring. Let's do it this way. That's already turning kind of orangey. I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. And I'm just eyeballing this, so yeah, a little bit more. I'm just going to run these again. It's a little bit too much paint, and I'm fine with that, because if you've ever been stuck short on something that's starting out gorgeous, it's a bummer. Again, I got so excited today, forgot to put my gloves on. We'll take care of that in a second, or else it's about to get really messy. I don't know what it is, I'm not much of a yellow person, but this color, wait till you see it. It is the bomb. I kind of mixed it, so I can't even tell you that it's a certain color I got, because there's about 3 or 4 different colors in this. Kind of looks like peanut butter. Okay, let me clear all this off, and then we will pour. I'm just going to do a straight dirty pour with this. Should I, since I can actually pick it up and it's not one of my big panels, should I flip cup it maybe? Yes? Okay. Alright, we'll flip cup it. Let's do this. There's some neat stuff happening. Let's see if you can see it. Hopefully. This could be, again, really funny. Make sure we're all square on there for the most part. Because I could just see this thing slipping off. Yeah, that's how I do stuff. Look at those cool colors. Man, I only did a slight, I did some wax, well it's not really wax paper, it's what you wrap meat with, freezer paper. Works pretty good, but I didn't think this through. I have a feeling we might go out here, so I'll be careful to watch that. Let's just get another one. While we're waiting for our paint to sink. Yeah, like that's going to help much, but okay. And the 1, and the 2. Oh, that's a lot of paint. That's way too much paint. But I'm loving it. Wow. I'm going to sneak over to the camera and zoom in on this a little bit without maybe disrupting things too much. That's what happens when you eyeball stuff, at least with me. Too much paint, but again, I'd rather waste a little paint than not have enough, because this is going beautifully. And see, that yellow is still looking kind of yellow, but it really isn't once it dries. Get some of that Rojo back down front because I love it. I don't have any feet on this, so it's going to bug the hell out of me, but I'll get through it. Okay. So there's a little bit of a look at her. You can see the wood on that covered up cigar box. That's the kind of that reddish wood. That's what this is. So that's what color will be the base of this. Kind of cool. I'm digging it very much. Let's get in a little closer. Now see what I was talking about with that Rojo gold there? That's that reddish one showing. It doesn't have any black through it, but you can see cells underneath it. So as this dries, it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. This is going to be another one of those Christmas morning ones where you don't really know till you see it dry. But so far I am digging it. So when it's all done, we'll come back and take a look. Yay, it's dry! So it actually turned out pretty cool, and this will be my first experience ever with resin. So I'm actually really excited about this project. It was a toss-up as to what project was going to get done because I have 2 orders for resin out, or I had 2 orders for resin out there. One was this small one from EasyCast off of Amazon, and I'll have that link down below in the description. And the other order was a larger order for art resin for a bigger piece. So this got here first. Thank you, USPS. So we'll be doing this piece first. But what I want to do is take this all apart and untape it so we can get a really good idea of how the pour went on this. Then we're going to retape it so that we can pour the EasyCast resin in here. Now I would suggest, because I'm not as familiar with resin as a lot of people are, but if you're new to it like I am, I would suggest researching it big time and really reading the directions to the specific resin or epoxy product that you're using, because they're not all the same. This one specifically wants you to pour your resin in a cup and stir it, pour your hardener in a different cup and stir it. Normally you put them together and stir it, but these need to be stirred first and then put together and stirred again. So that's what we'll be doing today. Of course, I will speed that boring part up. But what I want to do is tape this up so that I can get a pour in here that gives it a little bit of height. I want a really nice topper of resin on this piece to really show off these colors and really bring them popping back out. So that's going to be what our goal is for this piece. To prep this after it dried, I did a light sanding. This is a really fine grit. This might freak some people out. A really fine grit sandpaper to get just some of the tops of the little bubbles that weren't that we didn't get when it was wet. Then what I did was I went over it with a very, very damp cloth real quick, and then I added some talcum powder, rubbed it in. That's to soak up any of the silicone that may still be sitting on the paint, which I'm sure there was. After that, another little wipe off and a final wipe off with alcohol, just to get it all prepped and ready. So this little baby's ready to go, except for the skin oil that I just put all over it, but we'll see if resin will pour over that. So, let's do this. Shabby even on its own. Kind of liking this one. Seeing some discoloration in some areas where the primer that I put under here is showing, so I'm just going to take a little piece of fine grit sandpaper to the edges. See if that doesn't bring it down a little bit, or bring it out. At least it'll be uniform. Sharpie paint pen. I'm just going around the edge to give it a clean edge, just a very slight edge. Okay, I've got the edge all lined in black, covering up any gesso that was peeking through, because that white was really just a distraction, and the black really won't be. It's going to disappear because it's black. So what we're going to do is let this dry for a minute, then I'm going to tape the edge really well. I'm going to burnish it with a piece of wood, and then I'm going to tape plastic around this again to protect the rest of the box from any, I don't know, possible spills, because while this is going to be in a trough, I'm going to have an edge on this. I want the sides and the bottom to be safe because I've worked too hard on this. our stirring done, and we're completely level. I know this is just a little project, but I'm so glad to be doing resin. The next one will be bigger, even if it's just a coat of painting. Alright. One thing I did learn watching YouTube videos is not to scrape the cup, because if there's anything attached to the bottom or sides that's not 100% scraped, it'll mess up your pour. So I'm taking that advice. Now, take my glove off with resin all over it and torch. Oh yeah, the bubbles just run! Oh, that's awesome. I knew I was going to love resin. Looks like I mixed the right amount, because if you noticed on the top of this cigar box there was a slight ledge around the edge, and I wanted this to be a flat surface over both, and I think it's just perfect. So I'm going to actually come and get the camera so that you can see this wet, and maybe I'll need to torch it again. You can see how that works, and then we're going to cover this for 24 hours. Look at that sexiness. What you want to do is kind of use the glare to see if you see any bubbles, but I'm not seeing any right now, or else I'd pop them for you. But you can kind of see by getting a close look at the edge there how much I poured in. And it's really blinging the colors out too. I cannot wait to see this dried. Yay! Okay, next step, get her dry and unwrap her like a Christmas present. Okay, so this is where we're at. Yes, it's dry. It's not even 24 hours. I'm still in the soft cure mode, but I took all the tape off, and you can see already, I started sanding it already, and I thought, well, I should share this part. Because I taped the edges, I really totally expected that there would be a little ledge here, and I knew I'd probably have to sand it. So that's what I've been doing here. And pretty soon after I started sanding it, it became very evident that my box, the lid was stuck. So a little bit of resin from this corner and down the back here got into some of the cracks. And I taped my butt off on this, so sorry about the glare there. So between using different tools to try and get inside the edges here and pop this open, it was a battle. So what ended up happening was, once I got a tool in there and went to jack it open, it jacked open all right, and it broke the hinge that was in it. So there's two positives to this. Kind of a cool layer though, isn't it? There's two positives to this. One, I can continue sanding this, and I can do the edges, and I can do it with my hand sander. It'll be a lot easier to work on than attach this. Plus, where it broke off, there's a couple little divots in the back here where the wood in here fits in here. So here's a little, once you put it in there, it doesn't slide, it grabs. So I've already gone online, and I've ordered a 6-inch piano hinge for right here. So once I get this all sanded up and put one last small, really light layer of resin on there and get the hinge on, I'll be right back to show that to you. And we're in the final stretch finally, I think. Alright, so bringing you up to date, I did sand it, that's why it's looking so cloudy. I did, because we broke the top off, had to put a new hinge on this. And this is actually 2 hinges. I got that from Hobby Lobby. There was a set of, I think, 4 of these for $1.99 or something. So I was able to do that. The only downside to that hinge is I did something wrong. I don't know what, but we've got that going on now. So I will have to fix that by putting a little latch on the front. On the inside, it's actually still slightly tacky, but I went through and just did some, it's like some walnut wood stain, just to clean it up a little bit, because there was a lot of inconsistencies here from where the wood came apart. So at least this kind of makes it a little more cohesive. And that's the inside of the little hinges that we put on. So what we're doing today is I'm going to get this level, and then we're going to resin this vinyl top piece and make it shiny again so you can see the painting underneath. So while I do that, have a cup of coffee. Okay, now before I start resining this piece, I'm going to use a little brush this time, because well, not a brush actually, I'm using, what am I using? Where's it at? Another cut piece of my little mat thing that I had, so I'm using that. Another thing before I get too far into this I'd like to show you is, the last video I think I did, we talked about what you can do with Yupo and the cutout pieces. Well, I was thinking of ideas of what could be done with the inside of this, and that's one idea. So you could actually glue that down, decoupage it, whatever you want, and then cover that with a small, thin coat of resin as well. We're not going to do that today for the sake of time, but that gives you an idea. I mean, and you know, this is the funniest part. When I pulled this out and got to looking at it, because I thought, oh, that'll look good in there. This was extra paint that I had that I put on Yupo from this exact pour. So there you go. So before I mix up my resin, I just wanted to go over a few things, because what I sanded this down with, I've got a little bug sander, and I got this 400 grit sandpaper. Got that on Amazon. I'll get the link down in the web link to my art supply page for you on that one too. But one of the things that happened, another thing that happened was, as I was sanding this down, I realized there had been some kind of a chemical reaction here, and it's going to be very hard for you to see, I know. But you can kind of see that there's something right there. And I'm pretty sure I know what it is, because I had this taped, and it was taped with blue tape. And as I was putting the torch in to get rid of the bubbles, a little piece here caught, and it spit into this. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So what I did was I sanded it down extra, and then just kind of started digging stuff out with my X-Acto knife, flicking little pieces out. I've heard of people drilling into pieces like this and putting resin in it, and you can't tell. I've used toothpicks. Just kind of trying to clean this out, and I think we're about as far as we can go. This may still show once I put the resin in if I haven't gotten it cleaned out good enough, but that's for another project some other time as well, because I've put enough blood, sweat, and tears into this one, including that. So we're going to go ahead and resin this tonight, and you can watch that process, and then tomorrow when it's all hard cured, I will come back and show you the whole finished product. Well, maybe without the latch in front. Start out stringy, and it'll get clearer as you go, but I've only been doing this for about a minute. I would suggest, no matter how big or small your amount is, I would stir it very thoroughly if you want it to cure right. So I'm going to stir this for another couple of minutes. Almost forgot to bring you in a little closer so you could actually see some of this. Bubbles gone. Okay, where's my little card at that I made? There it is. I actually winged it on the measurements on this one, which I would advise you not to do, but I knew it was just going to be a little bit on the top coat, or I should say for the top coat, but as you can see I didn't pour the entire cup in just yet either. Okay, and again, for this project we used the Easy Cast, which I think a lot of, I mean, I'm still so new to all of this. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people use that for resin casting for jewelry and things like that. Let's get some more bubbles out of this. And I just did a big wrong thing. I touched my torch without wrapping it. So we'll see what happens there. There we go. I still have working time, so I'm going to just put a little more on her because I can see some areas where it's not quite as thick as I'd like. Just want to look at it from all different angles when I can. There's still bubbles in there I want to get, but I want to make sure I've got a pretty even coat here, and I'm still seeing some dips. It's not too bad right there. Use my little torch and see if that works a little better. Oh yeah, getting right in there. Bye-bye bubbles. Except for the ones that are locked in the bottom because I didn't get them all out. But it still looks really good. And I will tell you one thing I learned from the first round, or I should say the big pour that I did, about a 1/4 inch of that resin there. One thing I did learn is I was really vigilant about checking for the bubbles and torching for them, but I was so hyper about getting it covered so nothing got in it that I didn't watch it for a little bit. And so this time I'm going to watch it for a little bit because a couple of bubbles came up, really tiny ones in the original, that I don't think I would have got if I just stuck for another couple of minutes to check it out. So far looking good though. So I'm going to stick around and watch this, and then when we come back you're going to see a dried piece. Hopefully, unless something else goes wrong with this one. Actually, I'm pretty pleased. I mean, it was a tough project, but I'm very pleased with what I learned about resin in this one. Got a little frosted edge look there to it from the sanding. So, okay. Back when she's prettier and kind of sitting up and taking notice. It's a new day, and I decided to come outside today to show you the, well, almost final product on this resin job. Look at this little beauty. Look at that beautifulness. Yes, I'm very happy with that. Still a little bit, see the wood on the front? Once this is completely cured, which it's not yet, I'm going to rub that down and put a little Dutch oil on it to shine it up. And then put a little latch on the front of this and it'll be done. And then look at the future projects I have. Ooh, especially that one. Look at this big dog. He could be cool. Yeah, the inside's crap, but I can fix that too. So that'll be a fun project. One thing I learned from this project more than anything, well, I learned a lot actually, which makes it a positive, even if it turned out looking like crap. It didn't though. I learned a few things. One, I put the hinges on this way because I was trying to fix it so that it wouldn't have a gap when it opened, which it did anyway. You can see that little gap. So really the way they should be installed is like that. So that'll also be a fun one to do. But I learned a lot from this process, and I'm happy with my little resin box. We're gonna have to, I don't know, up the ante for next week. Maybe a big resin pour. Maybe a big resin art pour. Oh, and I'm sure I'm already getting questions as to where I get all these great cigar boxes. Well, I happen to work a couple of days a week for a really bitchin' cigar tobacco shop. And I have access to these because when they empty in the humidor, they're up for sale. And so I've been hoarding them for about 2 years now. And that brings me to my next question. How about an employee discount? Andrea, I'm talking to you. Have a great day.